Hi everyone, this is Carmen with Queers Converse, and I am here with Britt Brutality. Hey Britt, you want to introduce yourself to the people?
I'm Britt Brutality. She, her, goddess are my pronouns. And I guess I would be described as the high-femme AFAB Draglesque terror of Seattle, which is not something that I've ever considered before, but 3 sips of wine and we're already off. Let's do this.
I love it. I'm here for the high-femme, excuse, can you do that one more time? The high-femme
AFAB terror of Seattle Draglesque, I guess.
Draglesque. Is that like a combination of drag and burlesque?
Yes, I consider what I do to have some burlesque elements, and at least now that I'm older and more mature in my performance, I'm not completely shirking off burlesque. Like AFAB performers, it's always assigned to us, and I'm like, no, I'm a drag queen, but yeah, draglesque I think is more appropriate considering I can't keep my clothes on. So
I love that. That's going to be a new term, and you should definitely probably trademark that now.
Yeah, tell RuPaul to stay off my heels. We'll see.
Well, you were most recently, you were in BeautyBoiz Go Boo Part 6, and you were the High Priestess?
Yes, I'm a High Priestess.
Could you tell us about your character and how did you encompass her, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, let's just start with like who the character was. So within the Neon Cult, she was one of the founders of the Neon Cult, and she kind of is the orchestrator, or like the neutral coordinator. So she gets her hands dirty, but at the end of the day, it's really not her business, and she doesn't care. She's just like all about having a good time. But there's definitely a twist within the storyline that I won't give away right now. But everybody gets theirs in the end, so to speak. And the way in which I tried to like connect with that character, it's funny because I've been playing around with a lot of like femme deity kind of iconography recently. And I've been deeply in love with Lilith and just like the entire like philosophy and the story around Lilith, and just kind of like the legend of like how she came to be. So I channeled that energy pretty, not easily, but it was readily available as I was trying to mine that anyway. But yeah, it was a really great experience. It was just really wild to be able to like work with my friends during a global Panda Express, pansexual pandemic, whatever you want to call it. Not to make light of it, but we're just trying to survive. But like as a creative that is so accustomed to just like bumping into people and like having community in that way, we don't just see each other at Pony anymore. We don't bump into each other like twirling out of our place or, you know, just like even at QFC. So we have to be more intentional. And this project was really a blessing just to kind of get back in kiki with the girls. So
I love that. That's amazing. And I can only imagine this year it's been insane. And what y'all produced was incredible. I loved BeautyBoiz Go Boo Part 6. That was a really fun film to watch. And I was, in addition to, well, let's go over your performance artistry. And so you do drag and now kind of a type of burlesque. Are you adding film and acting to your resume? What is all the performance artistry that you encompass and that you do?
Okay. I don't even know where to begin with it, to be honest. And I feel like that's such like multidisciplined performer, or just like maybe it's just very ADHD or millennial, but like checking every box so far. But
you don't want to be, it sounds like you don't want to be tied in, or you don't want to be boxed in at all.
Right. I don't want to be boxed into anything. I mean, like when I came to Seattle, I was a little baby queen trying to break into specifically drag, and really falling in love with that instead of wanting to be behind the scenes of that, and being more supportive in a different way. But at the time wasn't a lot of space for performers that had the intersection of my identities within that space. So there was a lot of go-go dancing and a lot of like party promoting, which I fucking love, but that is that level of effort is not my passion in terms of curation. I would like to see a different kind of return on that investment, that energy investment. And as a performer, as like a drag queen, as a burlesque performer, in real time on stage, so much of that is about my own sexuality and leaving that all out on the stage. Like it's about catharsis. And then I guess looking at it now as we're kind of moving into the digital sphere, I'm finding other ways to be creative. And it sounds ridiculous, but like I have my meme account. It keeps me very happy. Like I've got some organic followers, so I'm like not mad about it. But it's just like little things of like, I don't expect for, I never expected for anyone to ever hear or want to hear what I have to say. And I'm just going to keep putting things out there and people are welcome to consume it if they like. So I wouldn't say adding actress to, I'm not adding that to my, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. I'm like,
no, you're doing great. You're doing incredible.
Okay, I'm like, okay, so I'm just realizing that I don't even know how to be interviewed because I start talking about myself and I'm like, okay, well, that's enough. And it's like, no, we're talking about me and I need to be okay with that.
I do the same thing. It kind of gets uncomfortable when you're talking so much about yourself, but you are making complete sense. And I'm loving it. And so you have me entranced. So do not stress. You were saying you are not adding acting.
Oh, right. I'm not adding actress or actor to my list of labels or my long list of identities. I'm a theater nerd. I grew up in the theater. I've been acting since I was a child. And just kind of been involved in that performance arts world forever. So dancing, acting, my family, they're better singers than I am, but I can carry a tune. But like, I'm not as great as the rest of my family. But
you and me,
yeah, just it's like coming from a musical family. It's like, okay, well, at least I can move. That's the least I can offer.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. My family, my dad and my brothers are amazing singers. They can all sing and do karaoke like that. Jasmine, my partner's family, are gorgeous and they can all sing and they can all do it well and they break out in like beautiful songs sometimes in like family gatherings. It's just like it's the most incredible thing. And I'm here. I'm just like, okay, so I can dance.
Yeah, it's like I'll be your boss tone in the background. I always make that joke. I'm like, I can't sing really, but like I'll like skank in the background while you guys play all your instruments, Like it's a very, not even millennial, that's like a Gen Z reference. I need to slow down. Or Gen X reference, excuse me. But yeah, I've been acting for a really long time and it's nice to be able to have more opportunities to do that. I don't think any of us had a chance to kind of settle down and think like, oh, we could take this into video and actually like have a budget for something and expect to have different expectations, a different standard that we're trying to like achieve. So it's been really nice. I worked on a couple of digital projects through the last year and like there's some cool things coming down the pipeline. I'm very excited.
Oh wow. Can you give us any hints? Can you give us any teasers?
So I did work with Heavy Scene McCock. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's one of my favorite queens in Seattle. She's fucking ridiculous. And is a total like film nerd and is like getting her production company off the ground essentially. So we did a sketch comedy show. We filmed a sketch comedy show in Tri-Cities just before Christmas, and like everyone was tested and shared their results and everything and then had to quarantine. It's like, if you have roommates, lock the doors, like we were really doing the do. We never had more. So Heavy broke it up into 2 different groups. So the first group was like the high risk, like nerdy, whatever group, like me with my asthma and shit. And we're like, we're not playing around. So we had all of our scenes together. And then there was a second group that's was shot earlier this month. So that should be coming out probably within the next month or so. But the funniest thing is me doing like mask drag. I never do like boy drag, whatever you want to call it. And it was definitely a different presentation than I think anyone would expect from me. But I played Agent Mulder, and it was nightmarish. The amount of shots that I had to do to get through that scene, it was ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah, there are things happening, so I'm excited.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see what else, like all of these projects, everything you're coming out with, because I absolutely loved you as the priestess, and you and Carla Ron's. It was just the energy was amazing. You guys
Well,
did
we are in love, so it fit. It wasn't acting.
I don't, I don't doubt it at all. It seems very authentic and very genuine. So I was questioning that actually. So I appreciate that you confirmed that
Yeah.
here.
Let me just confirm. It's real. It's real. Yeah, we've got like a Brad and Angelina thing going on. So.
Oh my gosh, everyone's gonna know now. Everyone. So you're originally from Oakland, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you move to Seattle, and how do you think your performance artistry and your drag and all of this has developed since moving to Seattle?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been in Seattle since 2014. I moved in the very beginning of June, and I keep saying that I've lived here for 7 years. It will be 7 years this year, but it's just like turning 30. I've just been like pushing to that 7-year itch. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm 28. It's like, no, I'm 31. But anyway, I've been here for 6.5 years, and I think the ways in which it has like impacted my drag is me identifying that it is drag that I want to be doing, and that what I am doing is valid as drag, and not being resigned to the smaller compartmentalization, like the smaller boxes of like, oh, well, you're doing burlesque because you are an AFAB person, and I identify as, femme. I identify as a woman, and all the things that fall within that spectrum. But it's like to identify as a woman and say that I am a drag queen. I don't wear pads. I have to wear pasties, and that is actually one of the things that I hate most about my drag, is having to like being forced to wear pasties. Because my tits are heavy and I use spirit gum. I don't just fucking put on some cute little like pasties. Like, no, it's not like that. So I'm using spirit gum and holding my shit in place. And then at the end of the night is a nightmare to remove. And I feel like I never get the spirit gum off of my nipple rings. I feel like it never happens, which is also why BeautyBoiz Go Boo, part 6 was such a dream and a blessing. And I'm like, motherfuckers, we are on video. We are on the World Wide Web today. Like, tits out. Like, you hired me to fucking play. We ain't gonna play. So yeah, no, it was just such a lovely experience to be able to expose my breasts outside of a porn setting, which is really cool. Outside of a pornographic setting. But yeah, there are just little things that I have always felt not necessarily invalidated my drag, but I had to work that much harder in other areas to accommodate, or to compensate for the fact that I am walking in with, a lived feminine experience, even if that's not necessarily, I don't think that's what makes a drag queen, but by the standards that we were learning and like that we were kind of perpetuating at the time, it's like, well, you're not a drag queen because you're literally just taking your top off and putting on fake lashes. And it's like, that's true. But that's also what femme presentation is. That's what drag is. I wake up every morning. I put this fucking wig on. I'm not wearing lashes; these are natural. But I'm wearing a beat. I'm wearing makeup. Like, this is an extension of who I am, and it's the femme that I choose to present as today. But I can do a number of things to change the way I look, the way that anyone can. So yeah, it just took a lot for me to kind of identify myself as a drag queen. And a lot of that has to do with Butaline and Harlot, who were my first drag moms here in Seattle. And as, you know, non-binary people, like they non-binary and also like my tias, my aunties, you know, my drag moms, um, they welcomed me and loved me and nurtured my talent and my craft in a way that no one had ever cared to do. And just, they were like, you are whatever you want to be. Um, and I was like, okay, then I'm a drag queen. And I'm like, all right. So that is definitely something that I don't know would have evolved. Maybe not as quickly if I had stayed home. There was still a lot of outside forces that were preventing me from really moving forward and kind of defining myself or defining what my art form was or what it was that I wanted to do. And I realized coming here that I don't have to compromise. I don't have to settle for a life of like corporate drone, whatever. I can find a way to be a grown up and afford the things that I want and support myself long term while still being a kooky queer artist and, you know, spitting blood in people's faces and drinking their cocktails while I'm performing. Like I can do all of those things. And I think that had I stayed in the Bay Area, even though it is now resetting and becoming a freaky, weird place again, it really just became like a Seattle light, like a satellite of Seattle. With all of the, I didn't mean for all of those, that wordplay to occur, but it became like a Seattle satellite. So as a sister city, it absorbed all the things that I was actively trying to outrun in the Bay Area. It just went wild. So that gentrification, like I wasn't here for it. So I think that I probably, I very likely would have stayed with my ex-partner or like somehow been with some straight dude and continued to live my life that way. Just like, oh yeah, well, swingers, not swingers, not swingers.
No.
Yeah, I'm not a unicorn hunter. I'm literally trying to date you, girl. Like it's different. So I think that in finding myself here in Seattle, I grew up here at the end of the day. I grew up here. And it was time for me to step away from all of that noise from that I'd heard my entire life. So Seattle pushed my craft in that way as well.
I love that, and thank you for sharing that. That's incredible, and it actually kind of answered my next question. I was gonna ask you how the art scene kind of differs between here and Oakland, where you're from. But you just kind of answered that. You said kind of a Seattle light.
Well, it is. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I think those are two different questions, though. Like,
oh, please, okay.
I think the art scene and the creative community in the Bay Area is what is creating that cultural reset that we're seeing right now.
Okay.
It's the diehard folks that were like, no, like we've had this lease in the family since, like in the family, in the collective, whatever, for like the last 15 years, and we're not giving it up. So we're gonna crowdfund and crowdsource and figure out how to fucking do this. And I think that there is a level of like rambunctious, just like, fuck it, we're gonna get this done, kind of attitude that like, I don't necessarily see here in Seattle. I think people are more comfortable and it's easier to take a back seat, but I think that I'm seeing that fire again. I saw that fire when I first moved here. I feel like we all got a little complacent here, but maybe we did everywhere. Maybe that's actually just like the nature of like major metropolitan cities. Like you look at places like New York and Chicago and Philly. Well, Philly is she's pretty good. Philly and Detroit are like thriving right now. But all of these cities that became more cosmopolitan. They began as being bohemian and they became cosmopolitan.
Mm-hmm.
And like San Francisco being one of those, like Oakland suddenly being a cosmopolitan city. And I'm like, honey, like, I just won't accept that. That's so pretentious. I just won't. But like, but trying so hard to become that, they lost their artist community. They lost their grit and the true heart of what made those cities so great. And now with the mass exodus of all these tech folk, like realizing they don't have to spend this kind of money on shit and they can afford to buy a home, like a mega home in Montana, go reverse gentrify their shit, make their shit all fucking weird and fucking unicorn hunting, heteronormative, but like liberal, make that shit liberal. I want to stay progressive out here. I'm trying to keep things weird and like equitable out here. So take your fucking weird white money somewhere else. So I'm into it. But I think that the Bay Area is more, people are grittier.
They're grittier. I like that. Okay, that better answers, and thank you for clarifying, because I'm not familiar like with much, and I also like going back to how your drag has developed and who inspires you, and I love that. I could understand where you would be challenged in your artistry as a AFAB person who you're just kind of you have a kind of maybe an unfair advantage, but you
it can be that way for sure.
And I can definitely see that as well. I could see that perspective. However, drag is still its performance, it's artistry. It's supposed to be what it's accentuating, I can't speak. Accentuating and like accentuating and like in excess, like making something extra flamboyantly, like extra femme. And I've actually referred to a woman who identified as a woman who does drag. She referred to it as a hype queen. Have you ever heard that term before? How do you?
Yeah, a hyper queen. Hyper queen. I like that. I mean, the thing is that I choose to use these phrases, like use this language around as descriptors of myself, because they're the ones that have been assigned to me. The way that I see my drag is I'm just a fucking drag performer. That's it. I don't see it as being anything other than that. I've been referred to as a bio queen, which is like weird. I'm like, no. We are inclusive in this house. But I've heard bio queen. I use AFAB queen just because I think that representation is important. But like, it's also something of a gimmick, and I recognize that people are like, oh, well, that's cool. That's a cool thing. Let's have you do the thing. It's like, cool, hire my Black ass, please. But no, it's definitely one of those things where I think we're all just performers. We're all just drag performers. And we all do very different kinds of drag. Like you have, I'm sorry, what?
I said I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, thank you. No, it's like you have queens like myself who I am, like my body's curvier, so I wear fewer things and I'm just like a naked queen. Then you have like my homegirl Franzia, who is another naked queen, but is, AMAB and just like, a sinewy little white gay, and then you have queens like Coochie who do a completely different kind of drag. Like their performance is completely like out of this world on another planet compared to what it is that either of us do. And then you have a Solana Solstice. You have your I can never say Lala's name, especially after a glass of wine. I am so sorry, Queen. La Saviana Hunt. Yes, mother. Who does a very a beautiful fucking high octane, high energy, but more classic queen. We all bring something completely. Femme Daddy, Demonica Leone, like we all bring something completely different to the table, and we're all fucking drag queens. We're all drag performers, like I think by calling me like a hyper queen, like what do you, so like I just don't I don't know. I don't know. I think that I'm tired of like all of the language that is so like divisive within this. I'm like, we're literally all just weird queerdos who are like putting on makeup or not putting on makeup, or we're cinching our waist or not cinching our waist, wearing breastplates or not wearing pads, you know, like we're all at the same fucking gig at the end of the day. Like I look back to the days of like OG queer bar, now that we can say OG queer bar, God. I
That's so
mean,
sad.
it's a fucking baby bar. It's a baby bar.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's not, it wasn't, I mean, let me stop. I'm about to,
Yeah.
they'll never book me again if I keep talking.
But I love what you're saying, that there is no limit. There is no limit, and there is no
Mhm.
real like clear definition of what drag
Mhm.
is. And so you don't want to like sometimes all these extra labels. You are just doing drag. To you, it's
I'm
drag.
just doing
And
drag.
all of these other queens that you've mentioned that we're gonna hopefully be able to highlight when we do all our editing, it's drag. And I want to ask, well, did you get into drag before moving to Seattle or after? How did you get into drag? And who inspires you and who energizes you?
Well, when I was a little colored girl growing up in Oakland, no, but like actually being raised by my mother, who was a makeup artist. And I mean, she's 6'1", she tons of fun, you know, like that woman is a powerhouse of energy. And like that, like before I forget this, because I've never actually thought about this, she is actually my drag persona, and I will harken back to that. I will come back to that. But like my mother raised me around the girls. She raised me around the dolls. So like it was the natural progression for me. Like growing up as a performer, growing up within this community, growing up around drag queens, and then like my mom being her own kind of tiny dancer with her makeup artistry, and then me with my own like costume design and kind of a, like connection to that. That's how I entered. Not tiny dancer, Benny and the Jets. But it's like I made the costumes for the girls, you know, and that was something that it was just me in the background, like stars in my eyes. Like I could never do that. But I was talking to some queens about this when we were in Tri Cities actually, and we were just like lip syncing along to all of our favorite songs, because that's all we get a bunch of queens together and all we do is lip sync. Um, and we were just thinking like, yeah, every drag queen just wanted to be a pop star. You know, like every drag queen wanted to be a pop star, and now every pop star wants to be a drag queen. And I am a product of the 90s, you know, like I grew up,
Me too.
you know, like we saw the queens, we saw the divas, and we saw attainable like diva behavior, attainable diva status. You could be a diva at 20 something, and in a way that like we never, like I'm like, well, people had to achieve that status, you know. And we grew up at a time when we had Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, Monica, Brandy, Beyonce, like
J-Lo.
J-Lo, growing up at a time when we had these like young femmes that were like, no, I'm owning all of this. So
And
like,
and I think for us growing up as women of color, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
a thought that you inspired me to have actually is I feel like growing up in the 90s, we also we identified with these like pop stars. And so like I was
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rican. My mom was like, look at J-Lo. My dad would be like, look at
Mm-hmm.
J-Lo. And you'd be like, oh my God, J-Lo, right? And then I think for a lot of like, and I don't want to speak for Black girls by any means or the Black community, but I feel like Destiny's Child and Beyonce was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
maybe what J-Lo was for me, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, like, and there were intersections. There was overlap. Like, we stand for J Lo. Like, y'all had Beyonce with us, and there was a time when we had so many more options too. And now I feel like people are being kind of pigeonholed. But like, there, we grew up wanting to be those divas.
Right.
You know, I grew up seeing Foxy Brown and Lil Kim fucking original WAP, you know,
Missy Elliott. Oh,
like fempowerment. So it was the natural progression for me. Like I had no choice in the matter. Like being raised in the community, being like me rebelling was entering e-commerce and entering like startup culture. That was my rebelling. Like that was my rebellion.
okay.
That was me like stepping away and like in my attempt to find myself. My Rumspringa was fucking working at startups in San Francisco when I was in my early 20s, like an idiot, when really I should be in a creative kind of environment. So like I got into this because it's a part of who I am. And to deny that would be to deny myself, like my greatest joy. So yeah, like a lot of getting older is also trying to figure out how to make this shit work long term. So
It works because you love it and it brings you
Mhm.
joy. And I think I would hope we live in a world. I mean, I would hope we live in a world, or we could create a world where that's enough, right? That, you know,
I hope we're getting there.
I hope we were getting there. And I think it's incredible what you do. You're incredibly talented. Are there any specific other drag queens that inspire you? But I mean, you mentioned your mother, for example.
Yes. Yeah. So my mom is my favorite drag queen on the planet. We actually, she doesn't have a drag name. We need to think about that. My mom needs a drag name. But her name is London, and which is why I'm Britt. That's not my drag name, that's my name. But yeah, no, my mom, the way that she approaches her life and the level of artistry, like she makes everything. She customizes everything that she wears. I always think back to, this is like my favorite story to tell about her, to my best friend, one of my best friends in high school. His name's Angelo, and we used to dance together. And he would spend a lot of time at my house and vice versa. But Angelo was like a young gay Black man growing up in Oakland, and my mom and his family loved him. It's not like it was like, you know, but he wasn't out yet, and he wasn't out at my house either. But my mom is a part of the community, so she knows. She's like she smells her family from a mile away. And my mom was on her way out to go hang out with the girls, and she was getting ready to go out. So Angelo and I are like in my room on my computer, and my mom's like drinking champagne. She only drinks champagne and like top shelf, like Blanco tequila. That's it. Do not offer her anything else. An actual champagne, by the way. We're not drinking champagne. No, swill.
A woman
But
after my own heart. I love it.
right. Also, she was working as a makeup artist. It's not like we had money. Like she was like, but if I'm going to drink, I'm like, that's better. So she's drinking a gifted bottle of champagne and getting ready to go out. Sorry, I'm spilling wine on my keyboard. And getting ready to go out. And she walks by her bedroom. It was the master bedroom. And she's like walking by my bedroom door. And Angelo's like, okay, Lonnie. He called her Lundy Cats when she got really sassy. He's like, okay, Lundy Cats. And my mom's feeling like she's like 2 glasses of champagne deep, and she's like on her way out with her tiny purse, her tiny rhinestone bag, and she's wearing like this maxi skirt that's pin tucked, like tufted, that she did herself, and it's covered in lace and feathers and fur and leather and all this shit. And then on top, she's wearing a blue satin steel bone bustier, like full corset bodice. And then she's got the biggest hair, every hair piece you can possibly imagine. Her eyebrows are up here, naturally, by the way, and just tweezed to the gods. So she's like full fucking like my mother walked so Violet Chachki could run. You know what I mean? Like you could never, your fave could never. So I think about that shit, and like the only reason I remember it is because Angela brought this up like 10 years later. So keep in mind, we're like 14 years old. Angela brings us up when we're like 25 and my mom's like deathly ill. She almost died. And we're reminiscing and having that nostalgic moment. And he's like, you know, my favorite moment that I will never forget. And he's like, we have a lot of moments with your mother, but my favorite moment is your mother getting her entire fucking life and like going out like she was about to be a part of like the kink matrix, some bullshit. I don't know where she was going. And like talking to her later, my mom was going to like the industrial goth club with her. And like that's where she is.
Here we go.
Or like the Eagle in San Francisco or the Stud or some shit. And like that's what you were doing. So my mother is my favorite drag queen. My mother like she taught me how to do makeup at a very young age. And when I was finally old enough to do it, I was going to school in like freshman year of high school with garage doors, MAC top to bottom, like 4 different colors, blended bitch, but from purple to lavender, and I'm 14 because why not? Mm-hmm. So I went from not being able to wear makeup at all outside of performance to my mother being like, you're a woman now. Get your nails done, airbrush those gel bitches, do what you need to fucking do, like live your best life because we stand a queen and you should love yourself. And like that goddess level, like that energy of her being so quiet and not quiet, but like so sweet. She's the kindest person you'll ever meet. And people like, it's disgusting almost. But the veracity that she has, the ferocity, I've got words, the ferocity that she has when it comes to her family and the things that she really loves, which is maintaining a healthy and comfortable house and home. And a lot of that has to do with like her own creative outlets and her craft. She has a craft room now and she's like living her best life in Arizona. But to see that person who's always been like, I see that like, that she-wolf, that like phoenix, that demon energy that my mom possesses, even though on the outside she's very sweet. And that's the energy that I try to tap into as a drag performer. Like Britt Brutality to me is like Brittany Morgan Greenwell. You may have to bleep that. But Brittany Morgan Greenwell, who I am as a person, mm-hmm. I'm tender. I just want to share and I want people to have a good time. At my core, I just want everyone to be okay. I'm not a people pleaser, but I want everyone to be okay. And just have what they need. I'm not going to give you more than that. You can get whatever else you need on your own. But with that, like, I'm a tender, sensitive soul. Like sexually in the bedroom, I'm baby, you know? I may have switchy energy, but I'm baby at the end of the day. And like, that's the energy that I put out on stage is Britt Brutality is the ferocious, like, she's that like pussy cunt energy that my mother gives after, 2 glasses of champagne and she's going out with the girls. She's like, my daughter is 14, 15. She's good. She's over here coding shit. She's fine. She's got friends on the internet. We'll be good. I wasn't a latchkey kid. My mom really showed up for me. She was very attentive. But like, she was at a point where she could live again. And she did that. And it was just that femergy of being self-possessed while having the weight of the world on your shoulders. She still took care of herself. And that it means a lot to me that I was able to see that. And that kind of fempowerment and agency is what I try to bring to my drag persona. So my mom is my biggest dragon.
I love that so much. And I want to meet your mom. Is she okay? You said that she had a near-death experience. So tell me she's okay now. Because now I'm now emotionally attached to your mother.
Oh, she's actually, so this happened, her being ill happened maybe like 7 years ago now, 6. She was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer 2012. And she is in ongoing treatment. So we got over the hump. We cut out all of the major tumors and everything. She's living a normal life. Mm-hmm. She just has to go in for treatment like once a month. So she's actually fucking awesome. She's actually doing amazing. You'd never know. And she doesn't actually like for me to tell. She doesn't like to tell people. It's fine with me telling her business, but she doesn't like to tell people when she meets them because she doesn't like being the cancer girl. But my mom is fucking fine. She's going to live longer than I am. So
She sounds
like,
like such an amazing woman.
she is the fucking coolest. Like, I'm just trying to be a quarter of as like decent as she is. Truly.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I clearly you and your mom are tight, and she's
Yeah.
just a huge person in your life, and I think that's amazing. And
She's my best friend.
oh, that's so beautiful that you have that too with your mom, right? Because not everyone has that type of relationship with their parents, and I think when you can have that with at least one of your parents, like that is everything. It's so special.
And she's the one. She's the one. I'm really blessed to have had her. And despite even my dad's shortcomings, I was blessed to have him too, you know? So I feel really lucky to be the intersection of my identities and to have had the people in my life support me through those things too.
That's amazing. That is, and I want to kind of, you bring up your intersections of your identities and their support. I want to jump ahead to a question and ask, how does your identity as like a high femme terror, how did that complement your other intersectionalities and your other identities? How do they complement each other?
It's kind of interesting because the older I get, the more that I identify that high femme terror kind of persona as being that. It's a part of me, but that's not me. Whereas a few years ago, especially when Britt Brutality as like a drag performer was introduced and not just me being like a little scene kid, like moshing in the pit.
I was a mosh pit kid too.
Oh, scene kids never fucking die. Like we just get, I don't know, forest tattoos and start doing CrossFit. Like I think that's honestly, where is the lie?
Did you just read me? We don't know each other like that.
But I know scene kids. I also know like little POC skankers. Like I remember us. I was there with you. I remember us, and we all just matured into this.
I don't have the forest tattoo. I have tattoos, but I did do CrossFit. So I'm just like floored right now. But no, I was a mosh pit.
Yeah. Especially the femmes that were in the pit. Those are the ones that are legit like lifting tires and kettlebells and shit now. Like everybody looks like fucking She-Hulk. And I'm like, yes, bitch, get the fuck after it. Like, oh God, I'm so into all these like 30-something, 40-something, 50-something women just being like, yo, I'm gonna be fucking jacked. And I'm like, yes, do it. Get shredded. Let's fuck these motherfuckers up.
I love it. Oh my God, we've digressed so far. How does your scene kid identity intersect with all your other identities? I want to hear it.
So it's just kind of, okay, so that like high femme terror, that Britt Brutality, that person that like, like fucking whatever, like IPA and Jameson girl, she's wild and she's aggressive and she's uncontrolled and uncontrollable, and that is something that I personally identified with for such a long time. Like who I was as like I saw being like just a terror of a person. I was very sweet, like at my core, but like guarded and I'm gonna hurt you before you hurt me, and like not really holding space for people or holding space for people that didn't deserve it. Because I didn't know what to value. So like to come from that kind of like almost like self-abusive space of not necessarily just being angry at the world, being so angry. I think that's an identity that people also assign to you as a Black woman. I think that's an identity that you are socialized to evolve into because of the way people fucking treat you. Um, I don't see the world that way anymore. My personal viewpoint does not connect with those things. So now it is solely an instrument of catharsis for me, and it's a therapeutic tool for me, to inhabit that space of Britt Brutality. But to look at my other identities as a queer person, as a femme person, as an AFAB person, as a Black person, as a college dropout, you know, like a neurodivergent person, like however you want to slice the things. I think that it's an opportunity for me to give a voice to a lot of the identities that are super visible, whether I like it or not. So I just lean into it. But these days, I think that in terms of my actual personality and how I see myself, I am allowing myself to be more than the sum of the identities that have been assigned to me. So
I love that last part. The you being more than the sum of whatever is assigned to you.
thank you. Yeah, I just think that a lot of us, especially as like, I don't know, I'm very sexually free, I'm very sexually open. And I think that's great. And I also recognize that a lot of that has been assigned to me, as a Black woman who's been fetishized and objectified. And then like going back into like the kink or the poly community, it's literally fucking blood in the water. If you're an attractive woman of color, and especially a Black woman here in Seattle, there are none of us involved in this community. So people are just like, you know, like I don't feel desirable in that way to be that visible. And I'm not trying, I'm going to be visible. I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want to do anyway. So I just want to be who I am. And I feel like everyone can kind of inhabit whatever space they choose to. But it took a long time to get to the point where I'm like, well, fuck you, the horse you rode in on, whatever. But also, we're all just people, and I can't judge you. I don't care. Like, you know, just getting to a place where like I support people and try to give them that grace as long as they give me that grace.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to achieve that? Who's trying to get there?
So I just downloaded this app called Field. I'm not a sponsor. I'm not sponsored or anything. I'm not an ambassador. But so help me goddess, it is fucking everything. It's like kinky, poly, queer Tinder. I don't know how, like, I think there's like 30 different like gender variant choices to choose from. Like Field, F-E-E-L-D. Maybe I don't want people to join because I'm having a good time on it and just like, let me just take it all for myself. But no, it's great. And on my profile, it's like the first time I've ever been able to be like totally free and say whatever the fuck I want on my profile too, without fear of like people assuming that I'm like soliciting or whatever, which is not a problem. By all means, get your money, queen. But like, I'm not going against the terms of service. That's all I'm saying. But on my profile, I have an acronym that I like while making my profile super stoned one day. I was like, okay, well, CYA-MYOB. And like my, obviously be compassionate. And this is advice that I often give to people of like marginalized groups is guard yourself. Not, I tell other people to open up. But like we should be guarding ourselves. We give so much of ourselves in general. But it's cover your ass, mind your own business. So it's not covering your ass, meaning like have your P's and Q's and shit together. No, you cover your ass by minding your own business. Stay in your lane, find your shit, find what works out for you. You know, like it doesn't mean that we don't have to like not care. for other people and what their needs and completely disregard those things. But actually fucking care for yourself. And care also includes not being a piece of shit to the people around you, you know, and holding yourself accountable. That's a holistic view of self-care. So yeah, cover your ass, mind your own business. So I'm just not involved in other people's drama. I love to have a glass of wine and have my friends tell me about how their partners have done X, Y, Z. I'm like, that's absolutely atrocious. Tell me more. I have no drama. I have no drama. I stir it up for myself maybe 3 days a month around my period. And outside of that, your girl is just boop. So cover your ass, mind your own business. It really puts you in a place of understanding that, like, another one is Effie, we all got pain. That's another favorite of mine. But through those two, but seriously, through those two, the philosophies, you can like recognize that everybody's coming from a place of their own perspective. And I literally don't know what you've been through. Like, I think that there are a lot of things that we can connect on for sure. We know this, but like, I don't know what you've been through. I have not lived in your body. I have not lived in your experience at all. All I know is what you can describe to me through my own way of perceiving it, through my own experience. That is how I'm going to consume it and like digest that. So fuck it. Like, everybody's got their own shit. Recognizing that people have theirs, as long as you keep your own to yourself and let them have their shit, everyone will be fine.
I like that. I think you have kind of re-energized me off a really exhausting day. So I appreciate your time and your energy and your wise words so much, because I agree completely with everything. You're right. And I think we can all take note of that. With the exception of those few days when maybe you might be menstruating and your hormones or your hormones are out of whack, because that happens.
It happens. It happens. And I'm not blaming it on that. It's really probably just being neurodivergent. There's a lot of other things we could talk about. But like, that being said, like, everybody give yourself the grace to fly off the handle every now and then. You know?
I have to ask, what is, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, what is your sun, rising, and moon sign?
Oh, Jesus. It's so obvious after I tell you. I'm a Cancer sun, a Gemini moon, and a Pisces rising. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself. But
a Cancer sun, a Pisces rising, and a Gemini moon. Okay.
And my Mars and my Venus are both in Leo.
Oh.
I'm a nightmare.
No, you're fun.
Sometimes too much fun. What's your placements? Tell me, what are your placements?
I think, I kind of think Geminis are secretly kind of like shepherd, like herding dogs. Every time we find each other, we always connect on some level. I'm a Gemini sun, and my partner is also a Gemini, I believe, rising. And so I just feel like Geminis are always kind of like, we connect. We're like the little herding dogs of the astrological. Every time we find each other, we're like, yes, we get really excited.
And nobody else blends with a Gemini like a Gemini.
We vibe.
You have to have Gemini placements in order to get along with the Gemini, period.
Facts. And then my rising and my moon are both Capricorn.
I love that journey for you. I love that journey for you.
I have absolutely no fire in my chart. I'm entirely like earth, air, and a little bit of water.
I mean, actually, I think that so in your persistence, but your tender persistence and following up with me, which I very much appreciate, you have no idea, like that's the Pisces in me, because I will never blame any flightiness on a Cancer. But I see that that's the Capricorn in you keeping shit together.
It's really just the earth and the air, and people are, and it's such an interesting balance because the signs are so different, but also very Gemini-esque, that duality and that just kind of that back and forthness. But I was actually trying to look at my chart to see what where my Mars and my Venus are, because I see the one like the one water, my Mars is in Cancer.
I see you. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say like I fight and I fuck the same. I fight and I fuck like with pride and just steadfast. And it's like, well, I with determination.
There you go.
And it's goal oriented, we'll say. So the way you're actually a very emotional fighter. Like, that Capricorn moon and that Capricorn rising with your, I don't see, now I just want your entire chart, because I'm like, you are probably not fun to fight with, actually.
No, my partner is going to be editing this YouTube video and being like, hell no, nope, I'm the worst. I am, and something I'm constantly, it's probably my way of conflicting is probably the biggest thing I need to work on in my life, my biggest weakness. But no, my Mercury, my Jupiter, my Venus, my Sun are all in Gemini. And then my Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, rising, and my moon are all in Capricorn. And my Cancer's in Mars and my Scorpio's in Pluto. That's it.
That is wild.
I get
You're
that
really
reaction.
split down the middle. I'm okay. I'm actually just gonna put some thought into this.
Please.
I'm gonna think about this and come back to you. I'm so serious. I'm like, this is actually cuckoo. I'm trying to remember where the fuck is my phone? My entire chart is such a nightmare. And I'm just like, all of these things make sense. Every time anyone that's like actually into astrology takes a look, they're like, oh, well, that's unfortunate for you. I'm like, yeah, and everyone I date, but where is it? There we go. So my Mercury, my Jupiter, and my moon are in Gemini. The only thing in Cancer is my sun.
Okay.
My Pluto's also in Scorpio. And then my Venus and my Mars are in Leo. And my Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune are in Capricorn. And apparently this year is supposedly my Neptune year. I don't know what that means, but I guess look into it. Look into your promise chart.
What app do you recommend? Because I know people hate, like real astrologers hate CoStar. It's just simple. But what app do you like?
So I like CoStar. I do really like CoStar.
Okay.
But I also use the Pattern, which is, I think it's great for, like, you enter all of your information and then they don't make it about astrology at all. It's really a good gateway for, I always use this as my recommendation for like my witchy woo straight friends that are like trying to get their boyfriends to understand why astrology matters, and like get them to download the Pattern. They don't talk about astrology at all. They just actually clock you and call you out all day. And it's like, well, didn't need you to read me this early in the day, but that's fine. Or throughout the day. And I also really like Chani Nichols. They just came out with their own app. So
okay, good to know. I've just heard CoStar bash so much recently. I just assume everyone hates it. But I mean, I think it just is very clear and easy for me to read everything.
It's easy to, I mean, I was able to pull up my chart in a second without, like, I'm not going to get it tattooed on my arm or something. Well, maybe I will. I don't know.
Oh.
I just thought about that. That's just a thought that I just had now. So maybe I'm
not a bad one.
It's easy. It's like, tell me you're queer without telling me you're queer. You just show them your natal chart tattooed on your forearm.
Yeah. That's pretty clear. Yeah. I feel like that's like also like a standard question. So I'm so glad that's how we like kind of wrap this up. And I just, again, want to say that I really do appreciate your time and your energy, but also your story and your insight. I think it's really important to share these perspectives and these different like ways of identifying or not identifying or just pushing the boundaries. It's so important to share because on any kind of media and platform, because I just hope that maybe other people, other young queers, old queers, anyone is going to hear it and maybe it will help widen their scope, you know, broaden their perspective. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for asking me to do this. This is great. Like, any opportunity to share the queer experience and, you know, chat with you.
Aw, I hope let's do it again because you're
Yeah.
fabulous and I really enjoyed our time. And
Oh,
I will get wine out next time and I will join you with
oh yeah,
a
we'll have
glass.
like a little sippy moment. It's cute, but it's
Oh,
my
girl,
brand. Thanks so much, babe.
thank you. And if you are interested in Queers Converse or have anything you want to share, please feel free to email us at queersconverse@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at queersconverse or YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching this episode right now, if not on one of our many podcast platforms. So thank you so much. This is Carmen. I hope I will be conversing with you soon.